You can't sit there and try to use your logic and brain to find out, oh, this is my mission. No, your calling is so strong that it's just gonna pull you to it. That it's almost like it's not even up to you. So everyone, this is the Authentic as Fuck podcast. I don't even know if that name is gonna stick or not, but we'll see. It's the working title.
Well, knowing us, it'll change.
Yeah, hell yeah. But mainly, I think even the topics that we talk about might change, but I want to start off because this is what we originally talk about personal branding. That's my jam. And authenticity, right? Because being authentic in building your personal brand. So since this is the first episode, do you want to talk a little bit about you? And so this is Elizabeth Brody-Waite, everybody.
Hello.
So yeah, maybe you can kind of give a quick intro and how we met and how this all started.
Sure. I'll try to. Some of it seems. What have we been working together for a year now?
Yeah.
Or more?
Almost a year. I think last September, either August or September, is when Michael first came to our office with his flip-flops. Yeah. And it was probably pretty chilly, but still above. I can't remember what his cutoff is, but there is a degree that the weather has to be, and then he'll actually wear shoes. Like if there's no snow on the ground.
If there's, which is always in Nashville, not so much in New York. So I am the wife of someone who's attempting to build a personal brand and who has been building a personal brand, Michael Brody-Waite. And so we met Sun about a year ago when we were searching for marketing companies to help us be a more legitimate brand. And I remember looking at everything that you had done and Michael saying, look at this dude. He's done Jay Shetty. He's done he was Swell Bottles, Mel Robbins. And I was like, we can't afford him. He's not going to work with us. We're nobody. And we were sitting on my back porch when he was going over the proposal. And he was like, I think we could actually do this. I think we can actually afford to work with him. And I was like, and I just couldn't believe that someone would believe in Michael's, someone that believed in the messages of those people would believe in the message that Michael had. Not because I don't believe, but because we were so impressed. And
it's like mini imposter syndrome.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because we were his TED Talk was about the only thing that was doing well. That TED Talk
was everything, though. Because I don't know if you knew this, but I watched that TED Talk about 6 months, few months before that. So when he called, I knew exactly who he was. So in my mind, because I watched that. I think the reason why I watched it actually is because I saw the title, right? It's called Why Great Leaders Lead Like Drug Addicts. Or
Great Leaders Do What Drug Addicts Do.
Do what drug addicts do.
Yeah.
And I thought it was going to be about how, because I have a very addictive personality. When I get into it's bad, but it's also good because when I get into something with work or something like that, I get really addictive too. And that's actually part of my success. So I thought he was going to talk about that. And that's why I clicked on it and watched it. But then it actually turned out to be even better. I think you're frozen.
It has me in there now.
I see your name now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, this is actually really good because, by the way, when I've been doing a lot of Instagram Live and it's really buggy. And sometimes this happens where the person drops off and I'm like,
right. What do I do? Am I still on? Like, yeah.
And I'm really bad at that. I'm just really bad at talking to a camera without a person.
Right. Well,
but this is actually really good because one of the things that I always talk about, and you know this, is people care so much about like just having everything perfect up front that like this kind of stuff is like a nightmare, right? And
absolutely, yeah.
Usually when I see my most successful clients and I compare them to like somebody who's not as successful that are kind of like stuck in a rut, this is the biggest personality difference I see. Like Mel Robbins, like sometimes I'm like, hey, you sure you want to like use that design? Because that looks like shit. And she really doesn't care. At the end of the day, she just, as long as it provides value, she really doesn't care. And some of our clients that's been at it for years that are, trying to like build their personal brand, it's almost like they care so much detail, like every one of their Instagram posts has to be perfect. And like, it's just, and it's their personality, right? And that's what stops them from actually focusing on what's important, which is their message. But,
yeah. And I think as we've built this brand, that was the facade that I believed. Is that our first podcast would be amazing. Our first videos had to be perfect. Our first, like, I truly believe that the first was supposed to be as good as what we're doing now. and
don't get me wrong, right? Like I see it with my own eyes happening. And when I started mine, I was still like that. So a lot of times, like we know it for other people and we give that advice, but we just don't take it for ourselves.
No, because I mean, I feel like we're conditioned to believe that in some ways, especially in this personal brand stuff. And then even when I see the personal brands, I don't know if we're calling anyone out, but I'm like, when
this
I
is the
I guess it is
podcast.
But I see people like Amy Porterfield, who I've used her stuff.
She's awesome, by the way.
But yeah,
not the singer.
No, but even the posts about the imperfections are perfect.
Have perfect photos. Yeah.
Perfect photos. But I really liked one time I saw her like repost like some of her first videos when she was sitting at her computer, and it looked like she was in like an office space in her home or like somewhere that was not perfect. Some of her first YouTube videos were just like poor quality webcam. And I was like, thank you for sharing that, because it made me remember like, oh man, I don't have to have this like exactly perfect.
That's true. Her video qualities are really good. And I can see her like, sometimes she talks about like she shows her set and all of that. But maybe that's because that's what she's teaching. Because like her personality is very real. You can tell like when she talks, and like I love her. Like but yeah, you're right. Like I think because she's showing these like perfectly lit, beautiful photos on her Instagram, other people are starting out are gonna look at that and be like, oh, I can't do it unless I have that too, which is totally wrong.
Right. And so I always appreciate when she and like I see other people point back. Gary V does this a lot. He's like,
Gary gives zero fucks, literally. Like you can tell.
So when he like points back and he's like, this was the shit I used to put out, y'all. Like it was not good, but I just put it out, and I kept putting it out, and I kept putting it out. And he actually has this one really great video that he put together where it was like, I don't know if he was doing the wine tasting. It was back when he was more into the wine.
The wine library TV.
Yeah. And like his first videos, and he like does a time lapse of like all of the episodes.
Oh, that's awesome.
See them go from him
like
at
a
this
shitty PCR, like
yeah, like really bad because he's been doing this for a while, like 10 years or more. But you get to see the progression, and so I always appreciate it when like
it's more inspiring to see that actually.
Yeah.
I always look at the first videos that people did, because even like Marie Forleo, like when you go back in the beginning, her videos, like, because Marie Forleo is like the epitome of like great design. Like when somebody talks about personal brand or something like that, they're all like, oh, I want to be like Marie Forleo.
Yeah.
Because her designs are so perfect. But when you go back even on her videos, just, they're not, they weren't always like that.
No. It's just hard, like you said, to remember that when you're doing it.
Yeah. So let's go back and so I saw the TED Talk.
Yeah.
And
so you knew who he was.
Yeah. But I don't know where you got cut off, but I was saying like, I thought it was going to be about a different topic, like having how like addictive personality like I am. It actually, if you put that towards like work, that's what I thought he was going to talk about. But when I actually watched it, it was something totally different, and it was even better because I resonated. There's like the one story that he talked about where he called the vendor and he's like, oh, like we fucked up, blah, blah, blah. And how the vendor, because I had that same exact experience with one of my clients early on at Night Owl. So that really resonated with me. I'm like, oh, this guy is for real, right? Yeah. And then that was, I remember that. And then when he called, when we had that call, I remember that TED Talk. So go on. And then what happened?
So then we were like, okay, this dude's actually going to work with us. We may actually be able to build this thing. In the middle of that, we were also, and one of the primary reasons that we were looking to invest in marketing was not only to build a personal brand, but we were working on writing a book.
Oh, yeah.
And the book was a big part of what Michael's always wanted to do. And he's been driven to share this message, and one of his life's goals was to write this book. So we wanted to put everything we could behind promoting and marketing the book. And in a lot of ways, he particularly didn't want it to be Michael Brody-Waite. Like he wanted the company to have a name. That. Yeah. And it did have a name. I mean, our LLC operates under a Leader Confidential. Like it's not Michael Brody-Waite. Because the thought of this being about him, even now, is so counter to what the intention was.
Out of all the clients that I have, the ones that are like that don't want to brand it under their person, like they don't want to make it about them, are actually the ones that want to help the most. That's funny.
Because I think that's what he's driven by. And that's probably what they're driven by. It's like the impact versus
exactly
the spotlight.
Yeah.
Because all he
and the irony of it all is that most people that want to build a personal brand is because they want the spotlight.
Yeah.
But in order to truly succeed in building a personal brand, you have to not care about the spotlight. So it's
right.
It's kind of ironic.
Right. And those are the ones I think are most successful and that have the most 100%. Impact on the world. Yeah. So last fall was just nuts. I mean, we were hiring a PR firm, hiring a marketing firm, writing the book, and
great leaders live like drug addicts, by the way. That's what the book's called.
Yes, we will like that. Great leaders live like drug addicts. And he finished the book. It was the most grueling thing. I didn't even write it. I was part of the process, but it was the most grueling thing. And in a lot of ways, I resented the book the entire time. And I haven't opened it since it was released, because
so it took a lot out of you.
It took a lot out our family. It took a piece of our family. It took him out of our family. Literally, I mean, nights, weekends, he was working
like
a job.
When he's like focused on a project, usually, like,
100%. Addicts can focus in a way.
No, I'm like that.
Normies can't. Normies are people that
it's a blessing
addicts.
and a curse.
Yeah. I remember we were dating, and this is a story I've told a lot of people. He and I were dating. We lived together. So we've been dating for like a year or more, year and a half. And he was applying for a job, or he was going through the process of becoming CEO of the Nashville Entrepreneur Center. And as part of the process, they had a project that they had to do, and some stuff that they wanted him to present on. It was a Saturday, and he literally sat in the same place for over 8 hours, did not eat, did not drink. I'm not sure he went to the bathroom.
This is for the TED, to prepare for the TED Talk? Or?
No, this was for a job. This is just to illustrate.
Oh, even before that. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know you guys also did that for the TED Talk, to prepare for the TED Talk.
There was that. Yeah. It was hours of him just in one place. I kept going up, and I'd just be like, hey, you still working on that? I went to bed. I think we worked out that morning, had breakfast, and then he sat in the same place on the couch.
When you woke up.
Yeah. He was, I went to bed. He
I've
was
done
still
that
there.
before too.
I can totally see that. Yeah. So that's kind of what happened with the book, except it was just a much longer process. Mm-hmm. And I 100% supported it, but it was just grueling. And so in a 3-month period, he wrote 3 versions
That's
of the book.
after we started working together, actually, right?
After, yeah. We were working on that. We were working on the book, working on the website, and working with our PR company. Yeah. And
I think you guys wanted this grand launch, and you thought when you first launched it, it's going to be this big thing, and you're going to have all the press in place. You're going to have the book out. You're going to
that was the dream. That was
because that's how a lot of startups start. That's how a lot of business starts. They get huge investments.
Yes.
And just so everybody knows, Michael is actually a veteran entrepreneur. He's founded 3 companies, including an Inc. 500 company that he sold. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of his mindset, right? How you would launch a business, or how you want to scale, and the importance of press and all of,
Right. But what's interesting is that he bootstrapped his company.
That's true.
So we've talked about this in the time since. Is he never had venture capital or all of these things that you see.
He started from the bottom.
He started from the bottom, and he just hustled and hustled and hustled, and we forgot that. We got cocky. We forgot, and we lost.
Got fancy.
We got fancy, and we just thought that we had the resources to invest in this, and we're like, okay, we're gonna do it, and maybe this will make it go faster.
If you were building a regular product brand, a regular brand, and you did that probably would have worked. I just don't think it necessarily works for personal brands. I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
I don't think, I can tell you it didn't work. Yeah. But, but now the pandemic happened. But I don't think it would have worked either way.
But because, that's what Tai Lopez did, right? Kind of. It can work, but it's fake. It's not the kind of brand that Michael wants to build.
No. Yeah. When we were we were worried about making the New York Times bestseller list, and how do you do that, and how do you sell all these copies of the book, and how do you,
which is all possible, by the way, if you throw money at it.
It's 100% possible if you want to throw a lot of money at it, which is also why I just kind of lost faith in the whole thing. It's because it goes against.
it goes against also what Michael's preaching, by the way.
Yeah.
And for everyone that doesn't know, like Michael's entire message is about authenticity, and because that's what's needed in order to recover, you know, for drug addicts to recover. So,
and it was just, everything about it felt wrong. And then March 1st was when all the PR was supposed to take off. And I think March 7th was the day that we were told to not leave our homes and to start quarantining. Yeah. And so press completely stopped. Like no one cared about what Michael had to say.
And before that, he had some speaking gigs as well.
Yeah, we had like, you know, Google, Dell, like these big companies wanting to work with him. Everything came to a halt, completely came to a halt. And it was so defeating. We didn't know how we were going to pay our employees. We had a couple of employees. We weren't getting paid. Everything was riding on this moment of in May when this book was supposed to come out, and eventually did, but it turned out, and I know this sounds like incredibly cliche, but the pandemic is something that I think he and I both are really grateful for, in not because people have lost their lives and all those things, like because of what it did to us as a family and as a company. And we had to completely change everything that we were doing. Our mindset had no choice but to change. And Michael said that he remembered there was this moment we were having a team meeting, and it was early March. And I was like, okay, I just want to point out that we don't have any outstanding invoices and there's no money coming into the company. And like, because we would always have outstanding, like always have a speaking gig, always have this, always have that. Everything that we've built our company on is not like happening.
It's like a screeching halt to the cash flow.
Screeching halt. I know,
because you know that happened to my company too. Yeah. I mean, we want a screeching part, but like our revenue, our cash flow dropped by like 80%. Like overnight.
Not 20%, drop by 80%. Like
so we had 20% of cash flow left. Like so I mean, like just to be completely transparent, like our cash flow was around 100K a month. And then immediately it was 20K a month. So
that's huge.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
And we had employees to pay, we had rent to pay. Yeah.
Yeah. You're not, I mean, so you're in New York City.
Where how you guys felt also, because for you, it went to zero.
Zero. Like, we don't know if we're going to do this engagement. We don't know. The world didn't know what it was going to, we didn't even know if the book was going to come out. Our publisher was saying, I don't know if they're going to print it. Like, that's and it true. Did get pushed back. Like, so there were just all these questions.
That happened. Like, because Jay Shetty's book got pushed back too, because I don't know if you remember, it was supposed to come out April. Yeah. Yeah.
And he pushed the whole thing back, what, till the fall?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's coming out, I think, next month.
Yeah.
This month, maybe.
Yeah, it's either this month or no, I think it's next month. September, right?
Yeah, September 8th. Yeah.
You're welcome, Jay.
Why are we promoting Jay's book?
Yeah. Got enough promo.
But
check it out. But yeah, so then here we are, and Michael has more clarity than he's had. We've been working with you for a year. We've been doing this as a couple, he and I, for almost 4 years.
And you are the kind of, so Michael's obviously like the person in front speaking, doing the, spreading the message, but you're like the person that's doing all the operations on the back end, which is kind of how most of our clients are set up. Like most of our clients are usually a husband-wife team where the wife is kind of in the front and the husband runs like all the stuff that happens in the background.
Yeah.
But you guys are like the opposite. Like Michael's and you run. So you're the actual person behind the scene running it. So you've seen everything. You know what happens, and which brings us to kind of why I wanted to do this podcast with you, is because I want you to kind of give your insight from actually building a personal brand, right? Not from like somebody who's like huge and trying to market it, like get something out of it, but you're like in it. And even now, as we speak, we're still in the midst of building it.
Yeah. And I think there's so much that people don't talk about, that they don't
all
say,
the dirty secrets.
There are some dirty secrets out there, and they're not talking about those. I feel like building a personal brand, and Michael talks about this a little bit too, is like the new lottery. It's like your new lottery.
I haven't heard this yet. Yeah, but
well, he just talks about like it's the new. I mean, think about multi-level marketing, right? The ones that are really successful,
like network marketing.
Yeah, like you know, the oils, the shades,
the pyramid schemes. Yeah,
the pyramid schemes that are out there. I'm not joining them. Thanks, but no thanks. But do your thing. But like, they sell you this idea that it's like you're going to hit the lottery if you do this. And I think I feel similarly about like you're going to get the car.
I call it the new tech startup, because I remember like in the 2000s and the Facebook days, everybody thought they're going to be the next Zuckerberg.
Yes.
This is the
you
new
think your site is going to be
everybody thinks they're going to be the next Gary Vee.
Well, most of you are Friendster.
Not even. Most of you are the startup that actually nobody's ever even heard of.
That's true. Like, touche, because
yeah, I don't think a lot of people talk about how hard this shit actually is, right? Because like, and the reason
they make it look easy.
Yeah, it's because that's what they're selling. Like I mean, at least like in the business and entrepreneurship world, the courses they sell, like, because people are selling courses that says, hey, go out and get clients and then learn how to run social media ads, and you can start a social media agency. You can build a personal brand, build courses, like you can sell anything, right? But
exactly, because
that's the dream that they're selling. But the reality behind the scene is that it's fucking hard. And if 99% of these people that are buying these courses actually knew how hard it was, most of them wouldn't do it. Just like starting a tech startup.
And notice, most of the really popular ones are the ones who are promising you that you're going to be a millionaire.
Brags to riches, yeah.
Right. They're selling you a course on how to make money. Those are who all the names are that you think of, right? Like, so
I think there's different levels of it. Like if you look at like Grant Cardone or like even Tai Lopez, like I see them as a total scam. Like to me, it's just a total scam. If you look at like Marie Forleo, Amy Porterfield, they're not a scam because they're not, but I think they're very disconnected from reality because, or maybe they're not, but yes, you can watch those and make something of yourself, but 90% of the people are not going to. Do you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
It's kind of like selling the idea of getting a six-pack, but you know, at the end of the day, 90% of your customers is not going to see results.
Exactly. They're not going to stick with it. They're not going to do it. They're not going to execute. I mean, very honestly, I never finished Amy's course.
I don't finish any course. Like the courses that I finish are the ones that are like really short, the mini courses.
Yeah.
I love those.
Those I can do. Like your freebies, like all the free opt-in stuff. Like I'll use those little tools and tricks, and I like those. But yeah, the times that I'm the same way that I've built the courses.
That's like one of the things that people don't talk about is how hard this shit really is.
Yeah.
And everybody makes it seem like just go do it. Just go do it. It's like field of dreams. Build it and they'll come.
Right. Well, and think about like what Michael says. Like you can't tell an addict to just stop using drugs. Like, hey man, just stop doing that. Just stop doing that, or just do this. I mean, it's the whole reason why he's doing what he's doing, because and Brene Brown, I know you're listening. You are.
I don't know if she's listening, but
hey, I'm putting it in the universe, man.
Okay.
Like Brene, Michael loves you. Yes, Michael loves you. You are the inspiration for this. But Brene's books, as incredible as they are, and the fact that she put the authenticity out there and vulnerability out there to be a safe conversation, I really credit her for her work. Because I don't think authenticity would be the word that it is without her. But she didn't really tell you what to do. Mm-hmm. She just said, do it. Mm-hmm. How do I start? Yeah, because it's really hard to do. And so back to what I was saying, like you can't just tell an addict like, hey man, stop shooting the dope. Yeah. Your life might get better. Like that's not gonna they're not sitting around saying, I want to do this. I don't think. So that's why he has been so committed to creating a system, an actual process, do this. And
which is almost proven, like the 12-step program is a proven system for drug addicts, but he's trying to do it for people that are wearing a mask, that are kind of like Brene's message, right? Like not being vulnerable, they're hiding their real selves, and which is actually very related to actually addicts, because that's what addicts do. They're constantly like hiding and lying.
Yeah, so they're chameleons trying to.
So Michael is trying to basically bring like something like the 12-step program. He's created his own program that requires like sponsorship, society, and the method, the program, and then bring it to the world of people, which you and I know that 99% of people we meet are fake.
Yes.
The other day I was watching this video of this guy making fun of some girl taking photo like on Instagram to show like she's supporting Black Lives Matter. And then she went up to this guy who was like boarding up a wall, and she was like pretending to like help him. And then she was like, thank you so much, right? Like, and then he was like, look how fake that thank you is. Like, but that's like, it's part of our life. Like,
yeah.
Like being fake we're so okay with being fake that we don't even think it's fake anymore.
And social media doesn't help. I mean, because you're showing like the snapshots.
Yeah.
Of like,
it's making it like it's like making it exponentially worse, in my opinion.
100%. Like, yeah, it's the curated authenticity. I can't remember if you said that or if it was where.
I'm not that brilliant.
I don't know where I got that. Maybe it was from me, or maybe I think I read this somewhere.
Just take credit.
I'll take credit, but whoever wrote the article or whatever I read on social media, you're actually the one that I should credit. But curated authenticity is what I think we're seeing now, because now authenticity is such a cool thing. Yeah.
Now people. And I actually think I kind of blame Brene Brown for that, because now everybody talks about authenticity. So I know she meant well, but I think it's kind of like Eckhart Tolle with being present, right? Like everybody, it's become, once something becomes popular, and the internet is probably to blame for this, it becomes such a cliche. And once something becomes a cliche, no matter how true it is, how important it is, it just goes in one ear and out the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think to kind of add on that, like, so So I never really used to think about authenticity and things like that. I wasn't really like, I saw her Netflix stuff, but it's not something that I really like got deep. I know like it changed people's lives, but for me, it wasn't like that. When I watched it, it wasn't like immediately like that, right? As much as Michael's, because I feel like Michael's TED Talk kind of put it in a way that resonates with me, because it wasn't put it in a cliche way. There was a story to it, which I think also is important. Like, because when you can use story to take a cliche and reframe it in a way that certain people will understand, you know? So, and then in that first meeting we had, like I said, Michael, just, can you do the workshop on me? Right? Because I do that with a lot of my clients. I'll go to their workshop, but obviously with Michael, I couldn't go to it. So I was like, can you just, so he did a mini workshop with me. And he actually told me like later on that like, son, you're a very authentic person. I'm like, really? Like that's when like I actually kind of realized, I guess I am authentic, because I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
And you are, I mean, it's not like I didn't know, because I hate fakeness, and I try to run away from it as much as I can. And you are like that too. Like you're one of the most authentic person I know.
Thank you.
So I think that's why I wanted to do this podcast around authenticity, and and the rest is history.
Well, thank you. That's a huge compliment. But I like what you said about you didn't really think about it. It's not like a thing you're trying to do is to be authentic. I think that's the key to people that are authentic.
Yeah.
Right? Like
that's true. Yeah. They're not
like,
thinking
if you're
about
authentic,
it.
you're not like, okay, is this me being authentic? Like, how can I be authentic in this moment? You just like,
because that's not authentic. If you're trying to be authentic, that's not authentic.
Right. Like that doesn't work. And I know that sounds like duh, but people are doing it, and they're intentionally trying to be who they are. And I think it's important to also say, like, you can evolve, because I feel like a lot of what happens is, and Michael struggles with this just because of how he thinks and his personality, but he struggles with like, but what if it changes? Like, what if what I say,
what if what change? Oh yeah.
Like, what if I say this?
I actually struggle with that too.
Right. And so it doesn't mean that he and I had like a 3-hour conversation about this. We actually had a weekend without our daughter, and we were like floating in our pool for 3 hours. It was great. But I talked to him about it. I was like, what's going on? Why do you lack confidence sometimes in like sharing your truth? Because you'll have these brilliancies, I call them.
I can always tell when he's like fully in it versus his trying. And I'm sure like people can tell with me too.
Yeah. Like we call it like he's trying to be Michael Brody-Waite versus being Michael Brody-Waite.
Just not trying to do anything.
Right. And people that know him like you and I do know him really well and have seen his personality from, every angle. We can spot those moments.
But I think even if you're seeing him for the first time, you can still tell. It's something like our human brains are so advanced that we can spot that shit so easily, even when we're watching somebody on YouTube. And I think that's why authenticity is such key in building a personal brand, because when you watch a YouTube video, you can tell like immediately if that person is fake or not.
Yeah.
For some reason.
That's actually, no, you're right. Like
we can tell even more if we know the person, like Michael.
If you know the person. Yeah. Yeah. But I was asking him about it. I was like, why do you do that? Because he is such a passionate like he's got some things that he's like 100% on and he's not going to waver, but there are other things that he kind of
why are those times where he loses that confidence? That's what you're asking him, basically.
How
come those times you're losing that confidence?
Right. And so why do you waver? Why do you give the other person like leeway to think anything else if you truly believe this message. And what's got all this going is that he had a video that's gone viral for us in terms of speaking his truth. And I was like, so why that one? And he was like, it's because I know I 100% believe that. Like I 100% believe whatever I'm saying. If I 100% believe it and can, argue my point and know that I'm right, then I'm very confident in it. If I feel like there may be some other ways, or there's like some holes. Yeah. There's some holes, or like that other people could feel differently, then I start to like back off of it. And then that's when it came up, like the whole, just to circle back around, like the whole truth, the truth can change. Like your truth can be like it can evolve. No one cares enough to go back. Let's back up a little bit.
So what he said on the TED Talk, obviously he 100% believes it.
Yes.
But let's say 5 years later, his perspective has shifted a little bit. Maybe there are certain things that he might not, like maybe he agrees with it for the most part, but there are still certain things that he feels a little differently about, or something like that.
And there are things in the TED Talk that have shifted.
Yeah. Because that happens to me all the time too. And I think that's why we lose confidence. Because I remember when I was like in my 20s, I was so cocky. I thought I was the shit. And then
you were. I have no doubt that you were.
And then as I get older, people lose that, right? People start to lose like confidence in themselves. And I think it's because as I got older, I realized that some of the shit that I was so convicted on actually turned out to be wrong. And once that happens a few times, you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't talk, right? Like maybe I shouldn't say anything. And but yeah, I'm actually like recently struggling with the same thing, because I'm saying all this shit all the time, to people. Yeah. And then sometimes people like, come back with a good point, right? I'm like, oh shit, like you got a point there. But yeah, I actually think it's now I'm trying to get to be at a place where my ego and my identity is not so tied to that idea, that if my idea changes or if I'm wrong, I can easily admit that, oh, fuck, I was wrong. Yeah. I changed my mind.
Like, and what's wrong with that? Like, for some reason, I feel like we see that as myself included, like that's probably a negative.
That's probably part of the reason. That's probably so closely connected with the mask that we wear, because like, let me give you a perfect example, right? Like my family is hardcore Christian. Like my entire family is hardcore Christian. I'm the only one that's not. And
wow. I've learned something new about you.
Oh, really? Yeah. My mom is like a conductor of like she leads the church choir. My sister plays like the piano for church.
Wow.
And like they go every week. And so what I realized is that, so back then I used to always, every time I go home, I would have this argument with them. Like, cause like, are you going to church, son? I'm like, no. And it's like, if we go into this argument of like why I don't believe in it and why I don't go to church, and but the thing is, my mom is smart. Like she has a PhD. My sister is very smart too. But I'm just like, why can't I have, and I'm not saying that I'm right either. Maybe I'm wrong and they're right, right? But why can't they have, because whenever we talk about that topic, the logic just goes out the window. And it just becomes like this emotional argument, right? But I think the reason why is because she's so tied to that identity of like being like, I'm a Christian, that's who I am. And if I admit that I was wrong, my entire identity is thrown out the window. Like, like my entire life has been wasted because this is what I've been saying my whole life. And I think that's what people are really afraid of.
I really like that. I think you've put into words like something that I like completely agree with. Like it's the it's not the point. It's not the point anymore, especially when it becomes emotional. Like it is your identity. And it's even if your mom didn't say like, I'm wrong, even giving you an inch, like of saying like, well, maybe let's agree to disagree, probably still feels like her saying she's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, like, and that
it's
is
hurting her ego, like
hurting
real
her ego.
Like it's breaking down everything about her. And that's why I think ego is so important. Like ego plays such a huge part of wearing that mask. Because I used to be like I used to have that. And I think like when those people that are saying, oh, I'm so authentic, I don't give a shit what anyone else thinks. That's an ego too. That's like, I'm wearing an identity of, I don't care what people think of me. Right.
Yeah. And authenticity does not equal be an asshole. Like that's not what that means.
People use that as an excuse. Like, I'm just trying to be honest.
Like, yeah, shut up. Like, no, you're like, no, like, that's not how it works. Like, and people use that as like the get out of jail free card all the time. It's like, well, I was just giving my opinion. Yeah. Well, you were malicious and
I think
rude.
I actually think that this is why I love having these conversations with you, because I get like my biggest breakthrough ideas whenever we talk. And that's actually the reason why I wanted to do this podcast with you.
Wow.
Because, you know, we used to always we would go on a Zoom to talk about project or talk about work. And then we end up having all this other conversation for 2 hours.
You know, they're like, hey, we got 15 minutes. Can we go through?
We got to do work now.
I've got some stuff that we actually need to do.
But the breakthrough that I just came to this moment is that I think that's how personal brands feel when they start a personal brand. And let's say I've staked my ground on the idea that, you know, wearing a mask is wrong and this is my identity. I built my entire brand and business around it. Or let's say somebody is like a pastor and they've literally built their entire career on it, right? By admitting that they were wrong and letting go of that ego and just being authentic, even if they have that little bit of feeling that like, oh, maybe I might be wrong, right? What's happening is they literally have to change career, right? They literally have to their entire source of revenue is gone. I think that's how they think of it. But the reality is if you really built your personal brand the right way, people are not following you because of that idea. People are following you because of you as a person. And you can keep changing idea. They're still on board because like how Gary Vee used to talk about hustle all the time, working 18 hours a day all the time. And now he doesn't talk about that anymore. He changed his mind on that. People still love him. Because they weren't following him because of that idea.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And they built a connection with Gary. Like they feel connected to Gary. And he represents a human. Like humans change their mind. Like I can see myself in Gary because I change my mind.
It's not like you're going to love, it's not like you're going to love Michael less if he changes his mind. Right? Right. And that's the same thing.
Like, hey, dude, I'm going to have to go back and change all this shit now. I have to go rewrite all this copy. Whatever. But yeah, I'm not going to love him less.
Yeah. And just like if you build a true following, like if you build an audience that truly loves you for you, they don't give a shit if you change your mind.
Right. And that's why I think it's so important to build true connection with them. And this whole we've grown this very slowly, obviously. Hey, if anyone wants to follow us, we'd love to hit 1,100 followers on Instagram. But
Instagram is not Michael's thing. Like he needs to be more on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we'll have a whole other episode about that stuff.
Yeah.
But like in the next kind of 10 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before we wrap up, let's talk about what were like some of the biggest like aha moments or lessons that you learned in the building from beginning to now, building the personal brand. And if you were to start all over from zero again, what are some of the things that you would do differently?
What a great...
And this could probably be another whole episode too, but let's just start it off now, and then we'll continue on the next week.
That would be good. But so I think the biggest thing, and this is probably because of a little bit to do with my personality, is how fucking long this takes. The perception of that in a year, like I remember sitting at our dining room table and thinking, I mean, like 4 years ago, saying, okay, in a year, like we'll have a legitimate business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, that didn't happen. I'm sure for some people it does. Like the LeBron Jameses of the world in the personal brand arena have that it has happened.
But even those, because I work with them, so I've never
They've been doing it for years.
Yeah, I haven't seen somebody grow their brand as fast as Jay Shetty, because he literally went
overnight
from zero to where he is in his social media, at least in 3 years, right? But what I found out is that before that, like when he used to do shows for Huffington Post, and it took him like 7 to 10 years of building relationship and getting to a point for him to even start that, you know? And Gabby used to do like talks in the local church here in East Village, Thursday nights. Like she's been doing this for 10 years before she actually like got on Oprah and, had that break. So that's the shit that people don't see. And that's why they think like, oh, he did it in 2 years, so I should be able to do it in 2 years.
Yeah. And we're not even looking to be like on Jay and Gabby's level or Mel's level. Like,
oh, why not?
That seems like for me, that seems like an incredibly, like the whole, like people knowing who you are, especially Jay, like, because he's so like, Jay, you're beautiful. Like, and you're just got all these like striking qualities that you're very recognizable. Right. Because I'm incredibly private. Like it just seems,
because if you look at like, there are some personal brands, like if you look at like Donald Miller, right? Or somebody like that, who's like a little bit more on the background. They're not necessarily like out there, like, like flaunting themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Not that Jay is, but
no, I think it just happened.
Yeah.
For Jay, like, but yeah, not that he didn't work and that doesn't work, but like.
So what do you think are some of the things that, so one, that
biggest thing was
it takes a lot longer than you thought.
Yeah.
Another thing that you mentioned before is that people don't talk about how hard this is.
Mm-hmm.
Like it makes it seem like this is the next gold rush, but I guess it is like the gold rush because that wasn't easy either.
Yeah. And I don't know if this, I mean, you would probably know better just based on your experience of working with people, but like there's a lot of, man, when I look back to the workshops and the things that Michael and I did 2 and 3 years ago, those things, like there was a lot of starting and stopping. And for some reason in my mind, I thought every time it was going to be like, this is the thing that we're going to do forever. This is how the workshop is going to work forever.
Yeah. I see what you mean.
It's not going to evolve. It's not going to change. Again, that could be my personality, but like once I surrendered the fact that it could like be different and that we didn't have to commit and just do the same thing over
That's probably like the biggest mistake that most people make, actually. And that causes that other stuff too. Because every time you do that, think about it. Let's say, you can build a brand in 1 2 or 3 years. But not if you keep resetting, because then now you keep going back to zero, right?
Right. Yeah. And so what worked really well for us, and I've told you this, is like the TED Talk made us solidify the principles. The book made us solidify the system.
The methodology, yeah.
Yeah. And so having those moments for us, they're very intentional, and we were able to just say, like, this is what we've built. Now let's build, like, just keep building the blocks. Because like you said, going back to zero every time. And then listening, like when something isn't working, like way back, we did these things called leader confidential meetings. I don't know if we ever talked to you about them, but essentially they were like 12-step meetings, but for leaders. And
I know you did those meetings before, yeah.
Yeah. We hosted like 2 a week. I hosted them. Michael would host them. Like we showed up every week. We rented space. We had people paying to be a part of them. And we did them for, I think we almost did them for a year. And we were doing them because I don't know, Michael might disagree, but I just feel like we were doing them because we didn't know what else to do. But like we knew. So if you were to start now, we should have been listening to the mess. Like we should have been listening earlier to like, there's something not right. So I guess that's one of my biggest ahas was like, trust that gut instinct. And like, hopefully if you are building a personal brand, you're not doing it on your own, and you've got those people around you that can give you their honest feedback and challenge your thinking. And that's something that is invaluable for the relationship with Michael and me, is just, we can challenge each other's thinking in a we're very comfortable doing that. Yeah. And I should have challenged earlier.
And you have people like that around you.
Around it, like you.
You know, I always do it.
Yeah, always, which is amazing.
I don't beat around the bush.
No, and it's amazing. And you have to have, so that would be like one of the things I would add to the list, is you have to have people around you that are not just yes men and women.
That's such a huge problem I see, because especially people that are like kind of established. Yeah. They have people around them. All they're doing is trying to make them happy, right? Trying to agree with everything that they say. And that can get to your head, you know what I mean? And they're scared to come out of that and then actually listen to the truth. But that's such a key to actually listen to the people that disagree with you, right?
Yes. Like, and that doesn't mean you have to do what they say.
Yeah.
Because Michael hasn't done everything that you've recommended.
And because there's nuances that he knows that I don't know, but I'm just giving him an honest perspective from my point of view. Right. And if he gets enough of that from there's going to be something that overlap. They're like, oh, if like 10 out of 12 people are telling me this, it must be true. No matter how much I want to believe it's not.
I don't want to believe it. Yeah. And that goes for anything, right? That goes for his message too. It's like, you have to have people around you to be a mirror, because we can't spot self-deception. Like we can't spot it on our own. No. You have to have the outsider. So that's another thing that has been invaluable with us in the process. And so there are times that I wish I would have challenged earlier. Like
it's always easy to see hindsight. Like it's,
I wish we wouldn't have made the investments in PR that we did. I mean, you tried to stop us from doing that. We just weren't.
Start small.
Yeah.
Incrementally make tweaks to build, take it one step at a time. Don't think like you're going to make it perfect. Boom. If it doesn't work, go back to zero and do it again. That actually, when you think that oh, that's going to get us there faster, it actually slows you down more. When you actually try to go slow, you get there faster.
Yeah, I think we would have learned. So if we would have, and all of this again, like you said, looking back, knowing that a global pandemic right? was happening. Yeah, like 2020 was even going to exist. Definitely changed things. But I think we didn't have enough knowledge and experience to leverage those investments at the time in which we made the investment.
Okay, got it.
Now, do I think like even now we could leverage some of these investments? We could probably even leverage you better than we did. I actually been
saying that. I said, hey, save your money and make it last a certain time because I think that so what you just nailed it. I think when you kind of do it like the greedy way, like the low budget way, and you figure it out, there's gonna come a moment when you're like, oh, I know this is gonna work. I just need to put cash in it. Yeah, that's when you want to invest the money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course, because that's what we should have fucking done. Like, but we didn't know that, right? And also I credit you to helping us get to where we are and a lot of the things that we figured out along the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, like, dude, we wouldn't be here without you. But like, if we would have been able to do all of that and then pull you in and then pull in like these PR experts, we wouldn't be like still in the phase where we're trying to figure it out. And we were in the phase of trying to figure it out. And right now we have a lot more clarity than we've ever had.
Yeah. At the end of the day, outside people, no matter how much of an expert they are or whatever it is, they can't help you build your business. Like, you have to have clear vision on what you want to do. And then these people can just exponentially get you there. But they cannot actually make those decisions for you, you know?
No, like, yeah, no, they cannot. And that would be some of my biggest advice to people is like, figure it out. It sucks. Maybe some people are just born with the clarity to know exactly what they want to do. Like, I was never the person who was like, I'm going to be a doctor when I grow up and I'm going to do all the things.
I don't think anybody's like that.
You know, but there are some people that then get so committed to their vision that they like execute anyway, but
like they're just laser focused on one thing.
Yeah. It's like, my dad was a doctor. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to go here. This is where he went. Like,
no, I actually think that's what everybody should do, because one problem with that I see with a lot of people, especially younger people, is like they have so many passions and so many ways they want to go. They spend all of their time deciding which one's the perfect one, right?
Yeah.
But I think if you just close your eyes and randomly pick one and just go all in, that all leads you eventually to the right path. And that's why I wanted to just start this podcast, because I didn't want to wait forever to be like, oh, we have the perfect topic.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's more of I think the way life works is more of like you're leapfrogging, right? From your path is more like this.
Yeah.
Versus.
But you won't know that next path until you start going.
Right. And I think it eventually, like, you're gonna be on the path you're supposed to be on. Like,
as long as you're being authentic to yourself, I think that authenticity kind of almost shows that path to you, because
it will reveal itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
You're drawn to certain things. That's what people call a calling, right? They're calling. And you can't sit there and try to use your logic and brain to find out, oh, this is my mission. No, your calling is so strong that it's just gonna pull you to it. That it's almost like it's not even up to you, right? But you won't know what that calling is until you actually start moving.
You have to move, and it will also divert you from what it's not. You know, I think some of the biggest things that I've learned, like in my path, some of the most valuable lessons weren't just like, this is what you need to be doing. This is what you know, like 100%.
Well, you don't want to. I know for a fact that makes me miserable, and I don't want to do that.
Not good at that. I'm done.
Because sometimes I think something I'm really like putting on a pedestal, but when I actually do it, I'm like, oh, this sucks.
Right. That was, yeah. And if someone had told you, like, I don't know if you can relate to this, but like if someone would have said, this is what you're going to be doing, you know, to me, like 10 years ago, which wasn't that long ago, like
sitting here on a podcast, like
I'm going to be on a podcast, that I'm going to be married, that I'm going to almost have 2 kids, like that I married this dude, the end of the month. So the 29th.
Oh my God. You're
16
brave.
days, whatever. But if someone would have told me that, I'd have been like, okay.
Exactly.
Like
same here. Same exact thing here.
But that's just, I don't know. I still think it's a personality thing. Cause I have like girlfriends who knew what wedding.
They know what they want.
They wanted to have a wedding. They knew exactly what it was going to be like. They knew exactly how they wanted all of this to go. But
and they're happy. They're happy with the path. They're happy with the path they've chosen at a early age. And then now that they're doing it, they're still happy.
Most of the time, you know, like
I think this is a whole episode on its own.
I don't know, man. I it looks a little miserable sometimes, but it sounds miserable, you know, like, because the person you were, like you said earlier, the person that you were when you were 20 is not who you are today.
Yeah. That's
and
true.
That's what's absolutely incredible and beautiful about our species. Like, I don't know how much a bird changes like in its lifetime. Probably not a lot.
Not much.
It likes worms. It flies. Like,
still likes worms. Still flies.
It still flies. Still knows how to build a nest. Like, not much changes. So I think that's just what's incredible about us as human beings.
Yeah.
As we
evolve. I would agree with that. Who I was in my teens is not who I was in my 20s. And when I was in my 30s, I was a completely different person. And then now, like I'm a completely different person from when I was 30. So
yeah. The dials,
I think we have to embrace that change. Like, I think so many people are so tied to that. Oh, this is who I am. Like, I'm just, what I hear is a lot of introverts say, because I thought I could never do sales, like ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people hide behind that. I'm an introvert. I'm not a people person. I can't do sales, right? Mm-hmm. And they almost like block themselves from that change.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's there's nothing sadder in my opinion. There's nothing sadder in life than that.
Yeah. That is, it's so, like, I know that's probably a different topic, but like yesterday, Michael and I had this epiphany where we live in Nashville. We want to stay in Nashville, but we had this like breakthrough that maybe we need to move to the suburbs because we want a house with a yard. Like, our life has changed, right? Mm-hmm. But he and I both were sitting there. I sent him a house that was south of Nashville, like 30 minutes south of Nashville. And he was like, would you actually want to move there? And I was like, I think so, because our life has changed so much and the needs of our life has changed so much. And he was like, yeah, I think I would too, but in my mind, he was just talking about like, in my mind, that wasn't possible because we've built
like
this
10 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. But even now, I think we falsely believed that there were these barriers.
Oh, yeah. I see what you mean.
So when you said the part about like, you hinder yourself, like we were unintentionally blocking ourselves from making a decision that would ultimately make us happier as people on this earth.
Like not even open to the possibility that it's possible.
And we didn't even know that, you know, like we didn't see it. We couldn't spot it because we were so entrenched.
It's
and
so funny,
yeah, like
but it's
we
so
both
funny
were
how once you break through that first barrier, though, like you can't see it any other way.
yeah, that's what happened. It's like we were driving and he was like, we had this like breakthrough like the previous night, like in a text exchange, because we were just like, wait a second, this is actually an option that we never thought was possible because of these unintentional subconscious barriers of what life was supposed to be.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and that's that's actually how you grow, I think. Because like I can date way back to like because I used to live in Brooklyn in this like apartment, like $300 a month apartment in my early 20s.
Whoa.
And like I've never like even dreamed of living in Manhattan, right? I was like, oh, there's no way I can ever afford. But then once I had the shift and I'm like, all right, I'm going to move to Manhattan. And from that point on, you're going to find ways to make that happen. Yes. You know what I mean? And once you're open to the possibility that that's even possible, that's how you grow. You know? Yeah.
And it's crazy though, how it happened. Like, I know we've all had those moments like where it's just like these like you have these like these huge breakthroughs.
Yeah.
Where you're like,
and it happens very quickly too.
Yeah. Yes. But for us, it was like he and I both who grow pretty right. Like we're open to things, like think that I
think it takes a long time to get to the epiphany, but once the epiphany happens, it's like, boom.
Yeah. It's almost like like when I think about it, it was like, there was a lot of pain along the, like there was pain that we didn't really realize, like the pain of in this specific example, the pain of like our daughter living in a house without a yard and having to go to parks all the time. And then like just all these like little things of pain.
That's how chronic pain actually develops. You know, like most people that have chronic pain, they've learned to live with it for so long that they don't even know what it feels like to not have that chronic pain.
Dude, like, that is like the perfect analogy or metaphor. I don't know, analogy, metaphor, whatever. Like, I always get those confused. But yeah, like you're living with it for so long that then when you see that there's like a medication or like something relatively small that you're actually in control of this.
Possible, yeah.
You're like, whoa.
It's like,
so,
whoa.
Well, that was like a light bulb for us, like in the last 48 hours. We just.
So are you guys moving?
Not yet, but we're. You're
gonna start planning.
We're planning, like we're exploring it. And when I told my mom, I was like, hey, we're going to go look at some houses on Saturday. She was like, this is pretty typical. Well, she's like, this is pretty typical. You're going to have a baby, sell a house, buy a house, and move all at the same time. She was like, sounds about right. You guys can't just like.
I'm so like that too. Like but I think, because, you know, Gigi hasn't been like my wife Gigi, she's not like that at all. She is the type of person that has to plan it for a long time before we do it. But she's almost changed now. And like, this is from her telling me that, but I've been like that my whole life. I make a decision. I'm like, okay, let's go and let's do it. Right. And I would not have been able to get to where I am if I didn't have that personality. And now Gigi's totally on board. Like, before she was like, she would be like, are you sure we can do that? Do you think we can afford that office? Do you think like, but now she's like, okay, let's do it. Boom. Like, and that's how you move up in your life. That's how you make changes in your life. You know?
Yeah. You have to be willing to take the risk. And life is, life is just like a bunch of, and I've taken this from Michael, like life is just a bunch of calculated risks. And if you're going to,
exactly, don't make stupid risks.
Like right. I mean, there's definitely varying levels of risk, but like every decision, and something I admire about his way of thinking is like, he's thinking about the risk and reward. Like, is this
like constantly, like
constant? Yeah. Every decision is like,
I know I can tell, like he's like that.
Like his schedule, I mean, down to like minute detail.
It's probably second nature for him.
His food. Yeah, it is second nature. Like on his birthday, I told him, because I know him so well, I told him the day before, I was like, I don't want to ruin the surprise, but I am making a special dessert for you. He's like, great. So he can like think about the way he's going to manage his exercise and food intake. I was like, I know that's important that you value that. So you can't just surprise the guy. I can't just make the dessert,
it's
right?
Like I can't even surprise him.
I can't surprise him. So I'm just going to say, this is what's happening. And he was like, man, I really appreciate you telling me that. Because then he made different decisions earlier in the day based on the fact that dessert was coming.
Oh my God. Talk about overthinking.
You know, I don't even, it's just a way of thinking. It's just like every decision is like that for him. Every conversation we have is like, yeah, okay. Well,
I think that's a good,
ROI?
That's like I bet you a lot of entrepreneurs actually do that, because that's what running a business is, right?
I bet a bunch of successful entrepreneurs do that.
Definitely not me.
You're successful. Let's be real.
But not as an entrepreneur.
Yes, you are.
No, I think I'm successful as a marketer, but not like in terms of operating a business per se.
Okay.
Which I think is like two different. Like if you were to tell me to run a business where I have to take a product and increase sales and set up an operation and manage this like sales and customer team, I will not be able to do that, because
no, I would never ask you to do that.
And I would suck at it. You would like your business would go down the drain.
No, I don't think I'd ever ask you to do that. But I mean, like secretly though, we would want, like Michael and I say the dream team would be like the three of us. Like we have Son, and then Michael and me, and then Brooke who's helping. Yeah, we need Michael. Yeah. So we got a lot that we could talk about.
Yeah, wow, we covered a lot of different topics. Maybe on the next one, I should prepare a topic or something, and then we can talk about that. So we can. I know. We'll figure it out. I'm already from this one, I'm getting ideas on like.
There's a lot of topics, but I think we needed to do this. Mm-hmm. This more to loose one.
Yeah.
To see, yeah.
Well, the next like 20 is gonna be loose.
Yeah. But like, this was really like, was really loose.
It was Wild West.
When it's hard, I mean, it's hard for you and I to like, because we'll go from like here to there.
We'll talk about David Goggins, and
I know. I there were a couple of times I almost brought him up, but I was like, I'll save him.
Save him for the Goggins episode.
I'll save for the all Goggins.
Yeah.
The all Goggins.
You're like obsessed with him lately. Every time I see him like on YouTube, I think of you now.
Yeah, like I have been really obsessed with him. I'm trying to figure out, and I actually showed Michael like the part of his interview with Joe Rogan where he's talking about like building his brand and about like why he's doing this. And this was like before the book, before
the first one that he was
the first one, like when he was like, I think Jesse, what's the name? Jesse
Itzler. Yeah.
Itzler. Yeah. Like Jesse had given him a little bit of a boost from the Living with the Seal.
Okay.
I mean, that's how everyone knew him, which I didn't realize that's how everyone knew him, but that's kind of how he got his.
I didn't know that. I thought he already had a kind of a brand when that happened, but I guess not.
No, Michael was telling me that like he Jesse, that book really like made
Put him on the
everybody
map.
realize who he was. Yeah. And that he was like this badass.
I mean, that guy's like so interesting. Like, he doesn't even have to do anything, and people will like find him fascinating.
Jesse or Goggins?
Goggins.
Oh yeah.
I mean, both, but Goggins more.
Goggins more. He broke the chin-up record or the pull-up record in Nashville, like down the street from our house at a CrossFit.
And you said his like mom lives there too, right?
Yeah. Like the CrossFit, I go to the Target, like it's beside my Target that I go to. And I kind of want to walk in and be like, oh my God, David Goggins was here. Like I felt
He's
that.
like your hero.
I don't know what it is about him lately, but I think it's a personal brand thing. I think
he's authentic as fuck.
He is. Like, we should have like people that we give like the authentic as fuck award to or something.
Yeah, seriously, like, he would be like number one on my list.
He would be the first, like he has to be the first recipient because like that could be one of our things and like be part of our social media that. If we like have,
and maybe
like
one day we can have him as a guest.
Yeah, like dude, you were our first authentic.
That's how you know. That's how
our AAF winner. David.
That's how we
Goggins.
know we would have made it.
Yeah, but yeah, he's killing it. He's. I don't know. I just think there's a lot to learn from him in a personal brand standpoint because he really does not care. Like his social media,
like the authentic personal brand, not like all the other personal brands. Like most of the personal brands out there that are like trying to build a personal brand. But if you want to do it the way where you don't want to be fake, you don't want to come off like humble bragging and all of that, and you just want to be yourself and build a brand as yourself, without having to worry about like, what am I going to say or all of that. Like he's like the perfect model to follow.
He's the perfect model. Yeah. He even talked about like how he intentionally like wanted to build it slow.
That didn't happen.
No.
It just exploded.
And Joe called out like on his, because I guess, Joe had interviewed him before, was fascinated by him. And then interviewed him again after the book and was like, man, I love your book. I have a feeling this thing is actually going to take off, and the way it's going to take off. This is
before the book took off.
It was before the book took off. Because
now it's been like number one bestseller for like the longest time. Yeah.
And I meant to go back and look at the timeline of like when Joe's interview was and when it actually like
if Joe has that much of an influence to push a book off, maybe, but I think he's the next Oprah.
Right,
he's the Joe Rogan book club.
But he said to Joe, he said to David, because David was like, I don't know, and like Goggins used like Lioncrest. I don't know if you're familiar with them, the book publishing company, but they're very expensive.
They are expensive. Okay.
I thought he self-published. Through that, you self-publish through them.
Oh, okay.
But they like will do everything, and it's like I think it starts. We looked at them. It's like $250,000 to get them to write your book. But they do like the PR. I think they do all the stuff. I can't really remember. But yeah, he said that he got offered, like $30,000 the first time to write his book. And he was like, fuck that. And then he got offered $300,000.
I think I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he was like, man, I almost took it because the most I've ever made in my life is like $60,000 a year. And I think he's got a lot of people around him advising him because
he's got Jesse.
I think Jesse is like, and Jesse probably made the investment. It wouldn't surprise me if he was the one that That's true. Fronted the money. Anyway, and then he was like, no, man, fuck that. This is my trophy. I'm gonna publish this. And then Joe was like, well, man, I don't think you need to worry because what's going to happen is one person's going to read this book and they're going to pass it to someone else, and they're going to pass it to someone else. And he's like, that's how this book is going to take off.
That's how all personal brands grow. That's what people don't realize. Yeah. That's why there's no point trying to like get press or get all this publicity when, like, maybe we'll close on this, and we'll do a whole episode about this, but you really have to stop trying to make an influence or trying to inspire. Like, you have to stop trying to inspire people. You have to stop trying to do that in order for somebody to be inspired by you and somebody to follow you. And I've personally experienced this, like in my company, like the previous company that I was a partner in, I just focused on doing my work. And people kept asking me questions, like, they're like, oh, how can I, like, people were following me. And I'm like, stop following me, like, get away from me, right? Like, and then when I started my company, I tried to do that with my employees, try to inspire them, motivate them. And then it just didn't work because it comes off fake when you do that. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's why David Goggins
because it is fake.
It is fake. Yeah. Cause I'm trying to motivate them. Yeah. Like David, trying to lead. Yeah.
No, man. You see his videos when he's talking about chestnuts.
Yeah.
Favorite video, David. Chestnut. Like I like, oh my God. Dude is amazing. The dude is amazing.
Because let's wrap it on that. And then thank you everyone. We'll do it again next week.
Sounds good.
Bye, Elizabeth.
Bye.